Liberian organization in the United States?
I'll come to the details of that in a moment. But just deal for now with the purpose of your trip to Liberia in early 1980.
To speak with President Talbot in helping to bring about a change in the country.
And at the time you made that trip, were you still on the MBA program?
Yes. I had to withdraw, though. I was still an MBA student.
You had to withdraw. Why?
The planning process in going to Liberia took some time. And that time involved me moving throughout the United States. And I just could not continue the program, so I withdrew to take care of this Liberian problem, and upon returning, re-entered the program.
And how long were you intending to go to Liberia for at that stage?
Oh, a very short time. It was not intended to be long. We went in January, but it ended up longer than we anticipated.
And it's whilst there on that trip, was it, bearing in mind what you've told us earlier, that you got married to Tupé?
That is correct.
We'll come to the details of that a little later. But help us with this. You mentioned an organization of Liberians with which you were involved. What was the name of that organization?
It was called the Union of Liberian Associations in the Americas. ULAA. ULA.
And when was that organization founded?
In 1972.
And were you involved in the process of founding the organization?
That is correct. I was one of the founders of the organization.
And what was the objective of the organization?
By the time I get to the United States in 72, there are approximately 70,000 Liberians in the United States. They have local organizations called chapters throughout the United States. I saw a need, along with others, to bring those chapters together in order for us to have an impact on the political scene in Liberia. I realized that we had to come together and not stay disorganized, speaking with different voices.
Come together for what?
In order to influence change in Liberia. They were all trying to influence changes in Liberia.
What kind of change?
Political change, democratic change, peaceful political democratic change. And remember now, we are coming out of the Tubman era. We are now newly entering the Talbot era. And so there's an opportunity now to try to influence the process. And that's the whole engagement at this time.
And tell me, what position or positions did you hold within the organization?
I finally became the chairman of the entire organization, the chairman.
And how was the organization set up? Help us with the hierarchy, the internal structure.
Each state had its own chapter and its own president.
And were you ever the president of a chapter?
Yes, I served as the president of a chapter.
Which chapter?
The Massachusetts chapter.
And for how long did you serve in that role?
I was president for about 3 years.
And then you were telling us about the structure of ULAA?
Mm-hmm. Now, what ULA became was an umbrella organization that all of the chapters subscribed to. And each chapter would elect individuals to represent that chapter to a national umbrella organization. And that organization itself would then elect its leadership. That would be the head of the entire organization, including the branches.
And did you ever fill that role?
Yes, I was the national chairman.
And was that following an election process, nomination, or what?
An election process. Within the umbrella organization, it works similar to, I would say, how maybe the European Parliament works. You have the member states, they elect individuals, send them to this organization, that organization elects its leadership.
And when did you become the leader of the ULAA?
In 1979, I took over the chairmanship of the union.
And was the ULAA limited to the United States?
What we say of the Americas, Canada was also included. So that's what we say, the organization of the Americas, that included Canada.
And tell me, did the organization have any kind of influence in Liberia?
Oh, we could not be ignored, I put it that way. We first started making an impact, I would really say, around the time of my chairmanship because of the unfortunate situation that occurred. I was just, it could have been anyone as chairman at the time, but an unfortunate situation occurred, and then some prominence developed as of that time in 1979.
And what was the unfortunate situation?
We had some problems in Monrovia where some people got killed, and I was presiding over a board meeting in Washington, D.C., and the news reached us that several unarmed Liberians had been killed on the streets of Monrovia that were peacefully demonstrating because of the price of rice.
We'll come back to that in a moment. But for now, let's go back to the organization, ULAA. Help us with some of the other individuals who were involved with the organization at the time you were chair.
Oh, we had several of them. We have at least 5 of the individuals that worked extremely closely with me. We have Blamo Nelson, that's B-L-A-M, I think it's O-H, Blamo. It's a crew name, Blamo Nelson, normal N-E-L-S-O-N. He's presently a senator in Liberia. We had an individual called Nyondue Mokomena. Now, I apologize. I really don't know how to spell Mokomena, but we're going to have to find out this. Nyondue. And it's Y-U-N-D-U-E-H. Nyondue. It's purely a crew name, Nyondue Mokomena. We have Joseph Gibro of the Crown ethnic group. That's G-B-E-R-O, Gibro. We have another Stephen Joe. By the way, Nyondue Mokomena eventually became Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Republic of Liberia. We also had Tom Wowiyu, that's spelled W-O-W-E-I-Y-U, Tom Wowiyu. These were all senior people. We also have another Bai Bala, that's B-A-I, and the last name is spelled G-B-A-L-A, Bai Bala. We also had another individual called Moses Duopu, D-U-O-P-U, Duopu. These were all Liberians and many more that were involved with the union at that particular time at various high levels.
Now, how was the ULAA funded?
Chapters contributed to the umbrella organization.
And were officials of the organization paid?
No. No. We were not paid.
As chair of the organization, were you based in any particular place?
I was still based in Boston, but it involved a lot of travel, so I was always on the move.
And who paid for the travel?
Oh, I had to pay for it myself.
And you were traveling for what purpose?
Organizational purposes, and to be clear for the judges, this travel comes back to your original question of the period of my withdrawal from my master's program going into. So we're talking about a short time of maybe about 6 months. Talbot has come to the United States. We are invited to Liberia. Now I'm going from state to state, trying to galvanize support and organizing the trip to Liberia, making sure that all chapters were on board and that we were speaking with one voice.
And tell me, were you traveling by yourself or with anyone?
I used to travel sometimes with one or two members of the Massachusetts chapter, and they couldn't stay long because I couldn't. And this travel was mostly on the weekend, so we would zip in and zip out because remember now I'm working. I still have to work to earn a living, so we were running over the weekends. So between Friday and Sunday evening, a lot of flying, running to chapters. Sometimes I would have people come down to see me. So it was a very hectic time.
And could you afford all of this traveling out of what you were earning?
Oh, no, not very. I couldn't, but I had to do something because students were all students. And everyone was having a problem. From time to time, there will be some little contribution by individual members that, for example, those Liberians in America that were now living and working in the United States and making good money. And there were several of them who would throw in from time to time.
But was it possible for you to remain solvent?
Not really, if this had gone on very much longer.
Pardon?
Not really, if I had to do this much longer, no.
Now help us with this. We're talking about a period in American history when there was a great deal of upheaval within the African American community. So help us with this. Was there any kind of a relationship between ULAA, an organization of black Africans, and the various pressure groups within the African American community?
No, we stayed away from those organizations because here we are all students, and the United States laws are very strict. We had to register. We did not register in the United States as a lobbying group against a foreign government, which would have, I'm sure this side understands, would have constituted a crime. We registered as a student association for social purposes. And so we were very careful not to get involved with American groups because it would have probably landed a lot of our students in jail or in trouble. So we didn't.
And despite those concerns, which resulted in you not being involved in any such politics, did you ever have any brushes with any of the American authorities in your role as chair of the ULAA?
Oh, yes, I did.
Such as?
I was arrested by the FBI in 1979.
What for?
Following the race riot in Monrovia and the killing of peaceful, unarmed citizens, I have told these judges that I'm presiding over a board meeting, and as you can imagine, tempers flare. We are so upset, and it's decided then that, look, the only way we can bring about this change that we're talking about has got to be through if citizens are not protected by the government is shooting people on the streets, so the citizens should have an opportunity to shoot back. Bad thinking, but that was the time. And so there was an attempt to try to buy some handguns to send back to Liberia to these unarmed citizens to defend themselves. And not knowing that the FBI had been listening to us, and they sent in an informer who passed himself off as someone that had handguns, and they meet to buy the guns, and they're arrested by the FBI. But I'm chairman of the organization, so I'm also I go back to Boston, and the FBI arrest me. They do not take me to jail, but I'm summoned to appear before a grand jury in Washington.
Pause there for a minute, and we'll come back to a little bit more detail on that in a moment. But I want to pause at this stage, Mr. Taylor. I asked you about something else, and that is your political views.